Hello, guys. I hope you're all set for the INICET. So, this is a short video where I would like to talk to you about the various ocular surgeries which probably they can ask you. Okay, so let's get on with the discussion. Now, what is the surgery that you see in these two pictures? So, you can see that in this one, what you can see is there are stab incisions. So, you can see stab incisions. Yes, so and the silicone thread or the silicone rod is being inserted. Okay, it's been inserted here through the Wright's needle. All right, so this is a frontalis suspension sling. Okay, it's a tarsofrontalis suspension. So this is at the end of surgery. So you can see the 5 stab incisions along which the silicone rod has been, it has been weaved across, and finally it comes out here and there's a knot here. So we would have buried the knots in other places. So this is a tarsofrontalis sling. Okay, so we are making use of the frontalis, which is an accessory muscle of lid elevation, to tie this tarsal plate to the frontalis and thereby lift the toast eyelid. All right, now what are the materials that can be used for this tarsofrontalis sling? Now, as in this picture, we can use silicone, which is a very flexible material, and it doesn't elicit any reaction, no inflammation. It's very easy to adjust. You can tighten. If suppose we've undercorrected it, we can tighten it a little bit post-operatively, or if we overcorrected, then we can loosen it a little bit. Or you can use supramid suture materials. Okay, supramid sutures. Or if we want autologous material, we can go for the patient's own fascia lata. Now, fascia lata is a very nice material. It integrates with the soft tissues there, does not elicit any inflammation. But the thing is, you'll have to take the graft from the thigh, and the patient should be at least 3 to 4 years older. Okay, the age should be 4 years. 3 to 4 years, not younger than that. So you can't do it in a congenital ptosis where the child is younger than 3 years. You can't do it in that case. Okay, so this is a tarsofrontalis sling. As you know, it's done for ptosis. And this is Jager's lid plate, which I've already explained in another OTAD session on instruments, and it is there in my Josh book as well. Now, the next surgery that we are seeing here, what is being done is there is a bilamellar tarsal rotation that is being done. See, as you can see in the upper lid, in this picture, in the upper lid, there is a full thickness incision that has been made through which you're seeing the cornea, and there are sutures that are being placed here. Right, so when you tighten the sutures, here, what happens is you can see that the upper lid, okay, so this is upper lid margin, this is the upper lid, this is the lower lid, because the patient is lying down supine and you're at the head end. Now at the end of the surgery, you can see that the upper lid is everted because you can see the lid margin. Can you see the lid margin? See, normally you will not be able to see the lid margin, but see here we are able to see the lid margin everted, and the lashes are all back turning up. So bilamellar tarsal rotation is the recommended WHO recommended surgery for trichiasis due to trachoma. Okay, so bilamella, because you know there's an anterior lamella and a posterior lamella in the lid. So when we are tightening the suture, both the lamellae rotate outward. Okay, so both the lamellae rotate outward. So that is why this is a bilamellar tarsal rotation, not just the tarsus, even the anterior lamella. Okay, so bilamellar tarsal rotation is being done for trichiasis due to trachoma, and is a very simple procedure, an OPD procedure. So what do we see in this picture? We can see a lower lid entropion. Okay, you can see the lower lid entropion because the margin is turned inwards, and you can also see the trichiasis, the misdirected eyelashes. Okay, now trachoma as such, it affects the upper lid and it causes a cicatricial entropion. Okay, so I want you to know that. So this is entropion, and for entropion, the most commonly done surgery is a Jones procedure, and we can also do a Weiss procedure. Okay, so this is entropion. Now this is exactly opposite to the previous picture. So what you can see here is an outward turning of the lid margin. So this is ectropion. In fact, this is a severe ectropion where you're able to see the entire palpebral conjunctiva, the inferior palpebral conjunctiva here. So there's a lower lid ectropion. So one of the common causes of ectropion is old age, involutional, and it also occurs due to facial palsy. So you can see in this picture, this lady has a left-sided facial palsy. You can see the absence of the nasolabial fold, the drooping of the angle of the mouth, and there is a severe paralytic ectropion of the lower lid. Okay, and in this picture you can see the lag of thalamus. In fact, you can see both the ectropion and also the lag of thalamus. So lag of thalamus is incomplete or defective eyelid closure. Okay, so lag of thalamus can give rise to complications like exposure keratopathy if the Bell's phenomenon especially is not good. So the cornea gets exposed and we can have an exposure keratopathy. Now, how can we manage this kind of ectropion? There's a lot of horizontal lid laxity. You can see that the horizontal lid is literally sagging. Yes, you can see the sagging of the lower lid. So we can tighten. So to prevent this or to correct the sagging, we can tighten the lower lid. How can we tighten the lower lid? We can tighten it by shortening the lower lid. And that's exactly what we're going to do. See, we're going to do a pentagonal resection, and we're doing a full thickness resection. One pentagonal shaped tissue we're going to resect completely. So the moment we do this, what happens is this area, you're removing that bit, so the length of the lower lid is going to decrease. So once the length decreases, okay, so we've done that, and now we're going to suture this bit. Yes, so once I suture it, see the lid length decreases and the ectropion is corrected. So the lid cannot sag now, it's tightened up, it's pulled up. Okay, so this procedure that we've done is called as Kunt-Szymanowski procedure. In fact, it's modified Kunt-Szymanowski procedure. So this is done for ectropion. All right. So for ectropion, we do this Kunt-Szymanowski procedure, and in that it's a pentagonal shaped tissue that is resected. A full thickness resection is done. All right. Okay, what do we see in this picture? We are seeing the left eye massively proptosed, and there's a lot of periorbital ecchymosis, yes, and there's a lot of proptosis. And on CT scan, you can see that the left eye is obviously it is proptosed compared to the other eye, and you can see a retrobulbar mass. So that is a retrobulbar hemorrhage. Probably there was a trauma or post injections, like a post retrobulbar injection, or bleeding after orbital surgeries. There's a retrobulbar hematoma pushing the eyeball forward, and it can cause decrease in vision, okay, because of this orbital compartment syndrome. Because you all know that the volume of orbit is just 30 ml, right? So now there's going to be an increased volume and an increased pressure. So it's a bony compartment. So we're going to have an orbital compartment syndrome, which is again an ophthalmic emergency. Because when the pressure is increased for, let's say, an hour to an hour and a half, it can result in loss of vision. Now, what can result in loss of vision in orbital compartment syndrome? One is it can occlude the central retinal artery. Obviously, when the pressure in the orbit is high, the central retinal artery pressure is lesser comparatively. So that way it can produce a CRAO. It can cause compression of the optic nerve. So you can have a compressive optic neuropathy. Number 3, it can cause AION like picture by compressing the arteries supplying the optic nerve, or because of the pressure gradient, there can be an ischemia of the vasa nervorum, not just the big vessels, even the small vessels. So the vasa nervorum can be stretched and the nerve blood supply is decreased. So the loss of vision can be due to any of these causes. So it's a really important imperative that we treat this condition in an emergency basis. And what are we supposed to do? Now this can be done even in the casualty by an intern. So all that you have to do is to relieve the pressure of orbital compartment syndrome management. All that you have to do is just place the scissors here. Okay, place your scissors here in the lateral canthus and give a cut. Give a cut straight. So what are we doing? Do you see this blue structure? So this blue structure is your lateral canthal tendon. So this is your lateral canthal tendon. So you're doing a lateral canthotomy. Now this lateral canthal tendon is attached to the orbital tubercle. There's a tubercle of Whitnall here in the lateral orbital wall. So it is attached there. So you give a cut horizontally. So that is going to widen the palpebral aperture and give some space and relieve the pressure. So this is called as lateral canthotomy. So this is the left eye lateral canthotomy. Now how do I know it is a left eye? Because I can see the medial canthus. Medial canthus is more rounded and you can see the caruncle there, and that's the lateral, and the side is the lateral canthus. Okay. Now if this still does not relieve the pressure, because we're going to keep looking at the pupillary reflexes, checking the vision, yes, to know how the OCS is responding. So this is the inferior limb. Okay, so this is the inferior limb of the lateral canthal tendon. This is the superior limb. Now, if lateral canthotomy is not relieving the condition, you have to disinsert this inferior limb from the Whitnall's tubercle. Now, this is called as cantholysis. So, we're going to do an inferior cantholysis. Do you understand the difference? Canthotomy and cantholysis. So, canthotomy, I'm just making a cut on the lateral canthal tendon, yes, and cantholysis is when I'm disinserting it, right? So go about disinserting the inferior limb. Now if it still is not resolved, then we go ahead with the superior cantholysis. Okay, so this is an emergency management of orbital compartment syndrome. So all that you probably need to do is just infiltrate locally. So in this area you're going to infiltrate lignocaine and then just go ahead and give a cut to the patient's lateral canthal tendon. All right, so you need to know this because you don't really need an ophthal resident to do this lateral canthotomy, and given the clinical nature of questions, you should be aware of this, because maybe as an intern you would have done this, or as an ophthal resident, a new resident, you would be doing it. Now in this picture, again left eye, you are seeing the scissors there which is cutting on the lateral canthal tendon. So the procedure that is being performed here is lateral canthotomy. Alright, so that is lateral canthotomy being done. Now in a comatose patient, there can be lag ophthalmos. As you see in this patient, there is a bilateral lag ophthalmos, and also there is absent Bell's phenomenon. So what happens is there is corneal lesion. So you get an exposure keratopathy. So if we stain this patient's cornea with fluorescein, it's definitely going to show an epithelial defect. Okay, so there is exposure keratopathy. Now what do we do for this patient? So such patients, whether it is comatose or when there's a non-healing corneal ulcer, there's severe lag ophthalmos causing exposure keratopathy, all that you have to do is bring the two lid margins together and suture them up. Okay, and suture them up. So we can do it as a permanent procedure or a temporary procedure, and this procedure is called as tarsography. Okay, so this question was asked this year in the MCI exam. Okay, so it can be asked for you as well. So this is a tarsography. Depending on where you're doing the tarsography, you call it as medial or lateral. So in this patient, this is a left eye and I've done it laterally. So we've done a lateral tarsography. Okay, a chemical tarsography. Now what is a chemical tarsography? Now let's say I'm going to inject into this LPS Botox, botulinum toxin, inducing a ptosis. So the whole lid is going to come down. So in that case, we call this as a chemical tarsography. Okay, a chemical tarsography. So in chemical tarsography, what is the substance that is used? It is botulinum toxin A, and it is injected into the LPS muscle. All right. So what is this? So this is, again, you can see picture number 1 and the final outcome. So we're doing a tarsography. Okay, so this is a lateral tarsography. The sutures are being passed, and this is just a bolster to keep the suture, in place and tight, and this is a temporary tarsography. So you can cut it off and the palpable aperture will be open. Now why I'm saying it's temporary, because see, there's no raw margins here. I've not created any raw lid margins here. I'm just passing sutures through the lid margin and opposing the lid margin. That's all. Okay.